Here's the solution video for project 1, at least my version of it. Throughout this course, you're going to be working on all kinds of projects, and just like I've said in the past, in Photoshop, there's a number of ways to do pretty much anything. I'm going to show you one way, my way, that I think is the easiest. Of course, there's probably other ways that sometimes may be easier that you might find out. And the final result is also sort of up to you as the artist, as the creator, to determine what you think looks best. But I'm going to try to create something like this that I thought looked good. So the first thing first is I'm going to resize this background. So just clicking in the top right handle, holding the Option key down on my Mac, Alt on a PC. To resize this, I'm going to increase the size, move it over to the left. Now, the reason why I'm increasing the size so much is because I like seeing that tree in the background. So see that tree in the background? But we've also got our elephants that I don't necessarily want to block the view of that tree. So that's why I had to resize it big enough to not have the elephants completely cover it. Now, figuring out how big the elephants are, this is actually a little bit tough for me, but I think something like that looks pretty good. Now, compared to the elephants, I think our kid is going to be pretty small, smaller than the baby elephant. Something like this is pretty good, and I'm going to put our kid right about there. It looks like where he's looking at the elephant. Now, remember, if these transform controls, the bounding box, are confusing or kind of getting in your way, you can always just untick this box so you can kind of have a better view of what you're looking at. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is, see these little pink lines that are popping up? Photoshop is looking at your other layers and it's trying to help you align. So if we go up here, we can kind of see here's the center of the document. So that pink line, and then if we want to go down, it's kind of tough. It depends. Sometimes if there's other layers visible, it's kind of hard to get that center document. Remember, we can always go to Align to Canvas and vertically align. Oh, it looks like we're right there. Maybe that's why we didn't see it. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that those pink lines that you're seeing, it's to help you align your layers with other layers and also with the canvas itself. Now our bird, definitely a little bit too big. Let's turn on our transform controls. We're gonna put this bird riding on our elephant like so. Should we put it on the baby elephant this time? Maybe we'll put it on the baby elephant. I think on my original I had it up above. I can already see that my elephants are a little bit bigger than last time, and that's fine. Sometimes looking at projects a second time helps you get a better view. I actually like that. I like how the bird shows up there. Now, the lighting of these images doesn't completely match, and that's why this photo doesn't look completely natural. You can see, looking at this elephant and the bird, that the light would actually be coming from our direction, where you're looking from. So like on the not the back side where the sun is, but the front side where you are looking at the bird. And so that's why this doesn't look completely natural. And that's just something to keep in mind when you are creating these photo composites, which is what this is. So if you hear that term photo composite or Photoshop compositing, that's what this is, creating a new image out of multiple images. But just as I was mentioning, lighting plays a big part in a composite image looking more natural. So this might be a case for picking a different background, actually. I already did a little bit of editing to the colors to make the colors, tone, and the lighting of these layers a little bit warmer to match the sunset that's happening in this background image, but that was something that I just did myself, which you'll learn how to do in a future lesson. So this is looking pretty good, but one thing that I do think would make it look even more natural is a shadow. So there are different ways to do this, but one of the easiest ways is just to create a copy of our main sort of layer, or the person we want to have shadow for, and turn that into like a black shadow, basically. So how do we do that? You can, if you remember how you duplicate a layer, you can just copy and paste it. But to copy it in its place, we want to drag it into the new layer bin or button. If I went copy and then paste, see how it pastes it in a new area? Or you can also right click and say duplicate layer, and it'll save right there as well. But either way, duplicate this layer. We're going to take the top layer, and we kind of saw this before, but this effects, and we're actually going to do color overlay. Or if you don't do that effects button, you can just double click. Remember we saw this? And when you do this, it has a color selected, and we're going to make it black, okay? Next, what we're going to do is actually bend it or warp it so that the shadow is on the front side of the elephant. So how do we do that? We can press the Command key on a Mac or Control key on a PC and grab that handle that's in the middle of the top bounding box and just drag it down. So we're going to drag it down, something like this, to where you think the shadow would be. Actually, to match the background, I see the tree. See how this tree is creating the shadow kind of to the left? We're going to do it like that. And then we just want to move it up just a little bit so that it is touching the feet of the elephant. And we're going to drag this layer below the elephant copy. Now, because this doesn't look so good, we're going to actually drop the opacity of this to, let's say, something like 25. That's looking pretty good. Maybe boost it up to like 35. Now a shadow though isn't going to have these hard edges. So what do we need to do to this? Add some sort of blurry edge. So how would we actually blur this? I'm going to be jumping ahead to something that we haven't touched upon, but Photoshop has a ton of cool filters. So if you have a layer selected and go up to the filter menu, you have these different menus, sub-menus for different types of filters. And one is a blur menu. I'm going to use the Gaussian blur, which is kind of a nice, kind of typical blur that blurs things evenly in sort of a natural type of blur. And you can kind of see a preview if you have the preview button checked on the screen to see what it looks like by increasing the pixels. So something like 47 or so, for me at least, looks pretty good. So that's something that we haven't touched upon, but a quick trick that hopefully will help you out in any future projects. Now let's do that really quickly for the kid. So we drag it into a new layer. We can actually go ahead and drop this layer beneath the kid. We're going to double click it, give it a color overlay, and this actually will match the previous color overlay you did, so it's already on black now instead of white how it was. Now we can't see it because it's behind the kid layer, but if we press Command and we drag that top bounding box down, match sort of the angle, and you can see there's a specific degree that we are angling it at, and I don't remember what the other one was, but if you want to be perfectly precise, you can kind of make a note of that. So there we have that. We're going to drop the opacity to the same. It was 35%, and then filter, blur, Gaussian blur. It's going to remember the same settings that we previously used, and you want to use the same just to make it match, and that looks pretty good. Now, just to organize this, what I'm going to do is double click the shadow or the second copy and call it kid shadow, elephant copy, elephant shadow. I'm also going to link these layers. I'm going to link the elephant layers. I'm going to link the kid layer. And I'm going to put the bird above the elephant, but also link the layer to that main elephant. So now if we move our elephant, our shadow, and our bird move, we can also resize it and everything's going to move with it. Our kid will move as well. And you kind of, I don't know if you noticed what I did, but I resized this, and then when I tried to click off of it, I can't until you place it. And I just did that naturally, but you'll notice that if you're like, oh wow, I have this selected now and I can't click off of it to another layer unless I click in the layer panel, you actually have to place it using the return key on your keyboard, just like when you were placing an image in a project for the very first time. And again, that happens when you resize a layer. So return, now I can go ahead and click my kid. And I think that looks pretty good. Our background, maybe we'll move it over just slightly. I love that tree, and I don't want it to be too covered up. Now this looks a little bit different than our other final version. Yeah, actually pretty different, but I still like it. So what do you think? Where did you get? I would love to see your photos posted to the course and just shared with me on social media. You can post it, tag me in it at Phil Ebener or at our Video School Online Instagram channel. And you can find all those links at our website, videoschoolonline.com. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed following along, and we'll see you in another lesson. Cheers.